Hello, dear friends of Kabala International. We are once again here with Mario Sabán.
Shalom, how are you?
Very
Nacho?
well, Mario. I am very well. Thank you very much. Today, we are going to talk about dogma and nothingness. That is, leaving the safety zone. And to begin, I would like to read a fragment of Genesis 12:1, which says, "Leave your country, your kindred, and your father's household."
It is a very interesting verse. I was very moved by that verse. I have a relationship with that verse, which is very interesting, because in the year 2002, when I was leaving Argentina to come to Barcelona, before I met with Rabbi Skorka, who later became very famous for being a friend of Pope Francis, and we said the parasha, the chapter related to the week I was coming to Spain, which is the week from October 23rd to 30th. And in that week was the parasha of the Lejleja, the parasha of "Leave your land and from the house of your fathers to the land that I will show you." And it was a curious case that just that portion of the Torah coincided 21 years ago, when in the year 2002 I left Buenos Aires and came to Barcelona. We are talking about the security zone. And what we are also talking about is existential emptiness. Why have we titled this chapter Dogma and Nothingness? Well, because in reality you can see very dogmatic people whose root dogma is based on the need to cling to a safety zone. The dogmatic is a fearful person. He does not know who he is. He does not know where he is. Therefore he uses dogma as a kind of burning nail, to which he clings to dogma. He clings to dogma because he is very afraid of being free, very afraid of thinking, very afraid of going out of the safety zone. He is a person who wants to enclose himself in an ivory tower so that no one disturbs him. He wants to be calm in that zone where nothing moves. And notice that Abraham, precisely in the text of the Torah, tells us that he left the city where he was born, where he had lived, and where all his society was. He moves and leaves the safety zone. On the horizon is his promised land. It is the future. It is not the past or the present, because he is on his way. It is the process of Abraham moving towards the promised land. Now, the question is, why is there nothingness on the other side? Right there is the question of existential emptiness. When people leave a dogma or leave a religious group, what do they find? They have no stability. They do not know which group they belong to. They begin to feel an emptiness, an abyss. They do not know what it is all about. So they prefer to go to dogma. And of course, souls do not understand that there is something in between these two extremes. One can live without dogma, and one can live without feeling the existential emptiness, the abyss. All this is a work. It is a spiritual work. Because the two extremes, in reality, we could say that they are very tempting. Nothingness as an abyss leads you to nihilism, to moral relativism. Everything is the same. Let's be hedonists. Let's live day by day, because we are going to die, and it's over. The nihilistic side tells you that life is absurd and has no meaning. On the other hand, if life seems to be an absurdity, it will be better to give it meaning through a unique dogma, a fixed dogma, and whoever does not share the dogma with me is my enemy. He is outside, he does not reach salvation. I found this dogma, I am the one who achieves salvation. Notice these two extremes are very dangerous. Nonsense leads to dogma, and dogma is a kind of nonsense. Dogma is a kind of nonsense. The dogmatist, as he does not find the general sense of the system, locks himself up in a fragment of reality. The dogmatist finds nothing, and so he tries to find an idea to cling to. However, on the other hand, he does not make sense of everything else. Therefore, the dogmatist chooses dogma, This dogma is the only thing that makes sense, and everything else is meaningless. Everything else is inferior to dogma. So the dogmatist is almost nihilistic. The nihilist says nothing makes sense. The dogmatist says nothing makes sense except my dogma. So, of course, the dogmatist is also quite nihilistic, because all those who do not adhere to his dogma are in hell, outside of salvation.
The dogmatist lives in anguish, reaffirming and reaffirming and reaffirming because he feels the void.
Of course. And the other has already let himself live in the void and stopped searching. In other words, the nihilist is not skeptical, the nihilist is also dogmatic, because he declares the absurdity of existence.
That's right.
In a way, the nihilist is also a dogmatist. There is a difference between the dogmatist and the nihilist. The dogmatist says this is the only truth by which existence makes sense, and the rest does not. And the other says nothing makes sense in existence and creates a dogma, reaches a conclusion. So he is not a skeptic. So notice the curious thing, the dogmatist is not a skeptic because he is convinced of his dogmatic truth. And the nihilist is an inverse dogmatist because he has overthrown all dogmas, but he is convinced that the end of all dogmas is his dogma. Thus the nihilist idolizes the absurd. Therefore, in a certain way, he is also a dogmatist. The skeptic confronts the nihilist. Now notice what nihilists sometimes do. They hide like intelligent skeptics. If you meet a nihilist, he will hardly tell you, I am an absolute supporter of the absurd. He will tell you, I am a relativistic skeptic. What I am is agnostic, and I am searching for knowledge. In the meantime, I declare that everything is absurd. If in the meantime he declares that everything is absurd, he could also say that in the meantime he could also declare that everything makes sense, nor can he declare that it is absurd. If he is a true agnostic, he would have to be doubting whether everything makes sense or not everything makes sense. Thus, the nihilist is a dogmatist of the absurd.
Ultimately, doubt is what drives one out of the comfort zone.
The doubt, the question, the cracks, the gaps. All the elements that are created for the energy to move through all these communication channels. A doubt is a communication channel. A doubt creates a void. A question creates a void. In relation to that void, from the point of view of Kabbalah, we would have to say that doubt does not create the void, doubt discovers the void that already existed. That would be, conceptually, really what we would have to say from the Kabbalah. I mean, I reveal that void, that either nobody saw it or some people saw it. Information is passing through there. I take the information that is moving through these voids and I grow in the level of consciousness by the information. Now notice, all this is possible when you recognize the function of the void. The nihilist entered the void and says there is nothing here. So if it is nothing, this is the abyss. He cannot recognize that the void is an information system. He cannot understand that the void exists to receive information. For the nihilist, that emptiness has no sense, and therefore nothing has sense. On the other hand, the dogmatist, feeling also empty, tries to cling to something that does not distress him. Because the nihilist, we could say, lives in anguish. On the other hand, the other needs to get out of anguish. The dogmatist is a covert anguished person, and the nihilist is a declared anguished person. The question of mysticism, and above all of Kabbalah, of Jewish mysticism, is to bring out the anguish, not to disguise it as dogma, nor to live in anguish like the nihilist. And for that we have to work, and we have to understand that everything that exists in function of a meaning, and begin to reveal that meaning. Of course, this is an effort. The easiest thing is, I believe in a dogma of faith, and I don't think about anything. The thing about Jewish spirituality, the thing about Kabbalah, is that it poses a commitment, a responsibility, an effort of reading, of meditation, of intellectual analysis. You have to put yourself to work. If there is no work, you do not advance. Both nihilism and dogmatism say, look, you know what? Nothing makes sense, declare a dogma, and that's it. Actually, we could say that the nihilist and the dogmatist are essentially rather lazy people. They are tired of thinking, tired of living, and tired of experiencing, and therefore they are people who have basically given up on life, given up on existence. They freeze themselves like the frozen food in the supermarket. They freeze themselves in the refrigerator and say, I want to live frozen. Of course, it is quite frightening to come to the conclusion that so many millions of people do not really want to exist, because existence implies a commitment, a work, an increase in responsibility. Both the dogmatist and the nihilist are irresponsible because they go against the nature of the universe. The nature of the universe is constant growth. The dogmatist does not grow, and neither does the nihilist. Why should the nihilist grow if nothing makes sense? Why should the dogmatist grow if he has found the final answer to the whole universe? In the end, neither of them wants to grow.
Both meet the sense in the static limit.
Yes, but it is a limit that basically, conceptually, from the point of view of Kabbalah, is death itself. It is death in life. That's death. Death is when you wake up in the morning and you're still the same as you were yesterday, and the same as you were the day before yesterday, and the same as you were 10 years ago. You are dead. Okay, your heart is still beating, but that's not existing. Existing implies a constant change towards continuous improvement, towards the potential of my soul, towards the best version, not resignation to a character or to a type of identity with parts I don't like. I can't change them because I feel powerless. I do nothing to change them. Well, sir, if you want to live like that, you have every right to live like that, but then, with your envy, don't project your frustration to me. Because the problem with this type of people is that they cannot change. They are clinging to nihilism or dogma, but then the one who grows spiritually, or in any sense those who grow economically, spiritually, culturally, intellectually, anything that grows for this subject envies him, hates him, or wants to destroy him because he makes a projection. We have to be very careful with this type of people. We have to teach people to grow, because the impotence due to their own lack of growth will be projected to destroy those of us who want to grow.
Mario, thank you very much for everything you have said.